So we got the basics about generics down, hopefully. Now let's dive a bit deeper into constraints, or into one specific type of constraint which we can add. And for that I'll create yet another function, a generic function, which I'll name extract and convert. The idea of this function here is that we get an object as a first argument, and the second parameter is in the end a key. Now I want to return the value for that key in the object, which we can do with this default JavaScript notation, using the square brackets to access a property in an object, but that's nothing TypeScript specific, that's vanilla JavaScript in the end. Now therefore here we could say that here we want to have an object, and for the key we want to have a string, let's say. Now here I'm getting an error though, because what we don't know here in the end is whether the object we're getting here really will have that key. That's the end what TypeScript is telling us here with this strange error. For example here, I could console log the result of calling this with, let's say, an empty object, and then name. And here, by the way, I'm calling this extract and convert, because I want to call this without console log and simply say value : plus. But that's just a side note, I'm returning a string here in the end with that retrieved data. But the main problem here is I could call it like this, and I would pass in an object as a first parameter, and then a string as a second. But correctly, TypeScript tells me that in the end it's not guaranteed that this key exists in this object. Now, to guarantee this, we can again use generic types here. We could say we got a type t, and that will be our object here. We can say extends object. But we also got a type u, our key here, let's say, which in the end has to be a key of our t type though, so of this object. So we want to guarantee that what we get here as a second parameter is a key, is a property of that first type. And for that we can say extends key of t. And now you see the error is gone here, and instead I got the error down there, because now I'm informing TypeScript here that the first parameter should be any kind of object, and the second parameter should be any kind of key in that object. And here, yes, we're passing in any kind of object, but we don't have a name key in there. This error will only go away as soon as I add a name key. So this is also something what we can use generic types for, with this keyof keyword here also, to tell TypeScript that we want to ensure that we have this correct structure. And that's of course really useful, because it allows us to ensure that we don't make dumb mistakes where we try to call this function, which in the end would try to access a property that doesn't exist. So this works, but if I try to access h here, I again get an error, for example. So let's switch this back to name therefore.